My name is Melinda and this is my channel where I talk all about my knitting and my making. Today is a pretty standard podcast style episode where I will talk about projects that I've finished, what I'm working on, any future plans, and some yarn and an exciting new craft that I will chat about here as well. Yes, so let's just jump right in with what I'm wearing. This is a very newly basically finished object. I am working on a design for this garment. It's a garment that's inspired by a ready-to-wear sweater that I have that I love, but wanted to tweak just a couple things and make my own. So that's what this is. It is knit in half fisherman's rib. It's a v-neck design with a pretty good amount of positive ease. I don't have the exact final measurements to chat about, but I will in the future, of course. They've got pretty generously sized sleeves, and I knit this using Purl Soho good wool, which I did enjoy working with a lot. It does, even just from one block and just from working on it, it does have a little bit of pilling or even just fluffy fuzz that I think will get to pilling, but I'm not sure how it will wear long term, so we shall see. But the process of working on it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working with this yarn. It is super soft and squishy. It's a non-superwash yarn, which is what I was looking for this garment and my garments in general. Yes, so construction wise, this is knit in a raglan style from the top down. So you do cast on for the sleeves, the back neck, and just a couple stitches for the front. And then I do have it where a handful of short rows are worked while you start increasing for the v-neck. And so working half fisherman's rib flat is really great just because the way that I do it is the right side rows are knit one below purl one, knit one below purl one for the whole thing, and then on the wrong side rows you can just knit across, and then just that 2-row repeat. So it's pretty easy, just knitting back and forth and then working the increases. It is joined right here in the front, and then it's worked in the round until you split for sleeves. So there were, I don't remember off the top of my head, but a small number of rounds where you do work the knit one below purl one, and then you purl the whole way around until you split. And then I have it where the body and the sleeves are worked flat and then seamed. So working the front panel flat and then the back panel flat. There is just 1x1 ribbing on the hem, finished with a tubular bind off, and then the sleeves are also worked flat, and so you work the body and the sleeves and then just seam the whole way up and then down the body. Last time you saw this was when I had knit and not joined in the round, split for sleeves, and I had just been starting the front panel. So I finished the front panel, back panel, sleeves, and the seaming and the neckband. And I actually just finished seaming this morning so that I could have it pretty much done for the podcast. I do need to block it still. You can kind of see, I'm not sure, I bet the camera will pick it up, but here's where I split for sleeves. And it's been blocked above it, but I haven't blocked since I've knit the sleeves. So there's a pretty apparent line, I would say. The neckband is worked in a 3x1 rib, and that is a folded neckband. So it's got nice cozy structure to it, which I think works really well with the the squishy half fisherman's rib stitch. So I think it all just came together really nicely. I'm very proud of this one and excited to hopefully wear it. It has started warming up, but we do have kind of the lows right now here in Iowa are about 30, low 30s degrees, low 30s degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. I'm all jumbled up. It's in the low 30s Fahrenheit here in Iowa right now for the lows of the temperature, but it'll get up to like the 50s during the day. Okay, enough about that. So overall, this went really well working it up. I imagined that the half fisherman's rib would stretch and block out a lot. I know it definitely does if you use superwash yarns or non-wool like plant fibers. It does give quite a lot of stretch, which I was counting on. I don't know what I was thinking, but I did the ribbing and bound off the front hem, and I thought I could get a few inches from blocking, but I did not, and I needed like 4 more inches, and I was kind of just hoping that I could be done, not because I didn't enjoy it, but because I was excited to have this finished, and that wasn't the case. Then I got excited about other projects, so really I ended up having to frog the ribbing, and there are a few decreases right before the hem on the front panel, and so I had to frog back through that. I considered doing sweater surgery, but with half fisherman's rib, it definitely would not be easy to just like Kitchener it back together if I were to like cut and save my ribbing and everything. I just said, you know what, we're just gonna frog and start fresh. So I was able to do that and get it back to where it needed to be lengthwise, and I'm just very pleased with how it has turned out. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a few wears in. I don't have any timeline for this design just yet. I think it will be more of a fall release, so the tester call will come sometime during the summer, but I'm not pushing myself to get it out super quickly or anything. So yes, I think that's about it. Yes. Alrighty, well, that's this one, and I guess I'll move on to the next finished object. I guess I'll just quickly mention a couple that I don't have. So this had to be at least 10 years ago, because I think I was home for like a college winter break when I made this. But I made my dad just like a pretty basic garter stitch headband that he's worn every day during the winter since, basically. And he lost it on accident. It was in like his coat sleeve or whatever, and he had an appointment and accidentally left it behind, and so he was very, very sad and requested a replacement. So I was happy to make that. I'm notoriously a terrible gift knitter for my family, never meeting timelines or anything like that. So he's like, whenever you can, if you can. But I was able to knock that out, so I just used some Knitpicks stroll? No. It's the one. It's the Knitpicks that is, oh, I do have some. Swish. It's just 100% superwash merino, and it was in like a dark charcoal colorway. So yes, just a very basic garter stitch headband. Maybe I'll ask him to snap a photo that I can pop in here. And then I do have a family member who just had a baby, so I was able to complete a crochet blanket for the little one, and that one was going to be done on time, except the baby came a week early. So it was delivered to the baby, I think 3 or 4 days after it was born, which is not the worst timeline ever, but I did gift a completed object, which is nice. Because gift knitting, as I just mentioned, is not my strong suit. Yes, I think that covers it for finished objects I don't have in my possession. And then I have a few others that are complete that I will chat about that I have here. So, let's do it this way. I am finishing up the tech editing process with someone. We've been going back and forth, and I've been a little bit slow to respond this last time, but basically the tester call for this will be coming in the next couple weeks. Pause. Okay. hopefully we have a happy baby for the rest of this one. Tester call will be coming in the next couple weeks for this garment, the Dominic sweater, which is one that I've shown a few times, I think a couple times, I'm not sure. This was completed last year, and this is my version, but the exciting update that I have is that I've also graded it to little sizes. And you see these ends sticking out, which has caused a minor problem on this sample because I was letting my daughter wear it around, which silly, but she pulled the last gray stripe. I didn't have those ends woven in, and she pulled it, so I need to go back and fix that. But basically she just pulled it so you can see where the stitches were and how many that she just tightened it a lot. So we'll figure out how I can probably just like pull them back into alignment. But anyway, so this is the Dominic Jr., I think is what I decided to call it. But I've graded it through like baby to like 12-year-old or so, I think, for the size charts, and then it should basically pick up for the adult version for the rest of the sizes. So this one, it is blocked, just not all the ends woven in. I do like to not weave them in before blocking when I am working on things that might not work out exactly. If I think I may need to make adjustments after blocking, I don't always like to weave in the ends so that I don't have to unweave them if I need to frog or anything like that. So this one is the 4-year-old, 3 to 4-year-old size. And it's the same concept where the striping sequence is reversed on the body versus the sleeves. And it's just very stinking cute on a little person, and my daughter is definitely knit worthy. She was so excited watching me make this the whole time, asking if she could try it on, is it done? And so excited that once I did finish it, I had to let her wear it, and that's why now I'm suffering the consequences of that by having to fix the sleeves a little bit, but not the end of the world. It brought her enough joy that it was worth it. So this version, I guess my version was knit in Juniper Moon Farms Patagonia. This is knit in Knitpicks Swish DK. So achieved gauge with both of those yarns, which is nice because this version is more of a woolen spun, it's a woolen spun non-superwash yarn. And this of course is worsted superwash, so super easy for kids garments, but you could use them for either depending on what your preference is. So yes, the children's version has the baby to the 12-year-old like I mentioned, and so it's nice because I have 4 little ones that are 4 different sizes. Even the twins don't wear the same size. We have our tiny boy who it's been very convenient because basically we can hand clothes down from the bigger twin to the smaller twin. And we don't have to have 2 of everything in every size. So anyway, the game plan is to make one for all the children so we can all have matching sweaters. My husband was like, well, don't I get one? And I'm like, you would never actually wear this, I don't think. So I could knit him one. He actually did try mine on just kind of to see. He is significantly taller than I am though, so it was way too short. Even though this is oversized on me, it was far too short for him. The sleeves were way too short, and it was a little bit hilarious. And while I think he would look nice in it, I don't think he would ever grab it out of his closet. So I'd rather make him something that he would wear more consistently. But anyway, so yes, all the children and I will have matching sweaters eventually. I did start on the next one, but then I got sidetracked with some other projects and other priorities. So I did just get the back panel done, the short rows, and then started on the back panel. I did not get the back panel done. But this one is gonna have the same dove gray, heather, I think that's what the gray colorway is, and then it's a darker green for the contrast, as well as there I got a blue, and then I did get this, the baby blue I held up, which I lost. Shucks. The one that I held up as the example was the 4th color that I got, but it's a little bit brighter than the other 3. This is Delft Heather, which is just a nice blue. And then I'm so confused where that went. Well, oh well. But that light blue was just a little bit lighter, so I'm kind of playing around with, maybe for the twins I will switch it so that instead of the gray being the main here, I'll do the green as the main for one and the gray as the main for the other, so it'll just be reversed on theirs, but I haven't decided 100% yet. But I think it would be very, very sweet for them to all have these sweaters to wear. Anything else about that? I really don't think so at this point. The patterns are all written. I just need to get the final look through from my tech editor, and I will be able to call for testers. They will be 2 separate patterns for the big size and the smaller size, or the adult versus the children's garment. So we shall see. We shall see. I don't know what we'll see. So there will be 2 separate tester calls for these. That will be coming fairly soon. All right, so Dominic sweater and Dominic Jr. And then I do have one more finished knit object to talk about, and that is another one I'm very proud of. I'm so proud. I don't know if that's weird to say, but I'm very pleased with how this turned out. So in my last video, I had talked about an idea that I had that just wasn't quite working out, which is mostly frogged now, but this, which was not a success. So we'll just put this down to the side. But as I was working on it, I was like, you know, I still kind of want to do some kind of cabled or textured garment that's like a little bit more basic with this yarn, because I think the camel colorway is just definitely a classic. So I was looking for some kind of more classic design to go with it, and this is what I came up with. So this sweater is another drop shoulder knit in Cascade 220 this time, and this is the camel colorway. It has the back panel with, a couple learnings from the other one that I applied to this one. So 2 things. One, the back panel is using increases rather than short rows, so that I was able to work it so that I could pick up and have the cables line up on the front and back. They don't like, it's not like it continues over the shoulder, which I knew would be the case. So that's why I also have the 2 stitches here where you do the pickup for the front shoulder. So basically cast on for the back neck, and then your increases are worked along these 2 stockinette stitches until you hit the certain point, and then they're more, you work the back panel just straight for a little while, and then do increases for the underarm as well. And that was so that we get the nice shaping, in addition to just having a pretty clean, one second. So that's so that we can have the nice increases and then a clean pickup where the cables line up. Like I mentioned, they don't like continue across, but they do line up from the front and back. Oh man. Okay. Not exactly sure what I was saying, but basically, yes, that's the construction. So work the back panel and then pick up, work the front, and it goes into the increases for the neckline. Cast on for the front, you work the left and then the right, you do the cast on, work back and forth, and then do the increases on the front panel to then join in the round. The body is worked straight, and then something I'm pretty proud of is I think I have a really nice transition from the cables into the 2x2 ribbing. So for these are the 2 stockinette stitches, and then this 2x2 cable, you do like an extra little cable to get them the kind of 2 sections of that to go right into the ribbing, and then this lines up with the ribbing. Of course, this just comes out of the purl stitches for the center of that cable, of the traveling cable, but I think it still does look pretty clean, which is nice. And then my favorite 2x2 sewn bind off. It's not the tubular bind off, it's just a sewn bind off where it resembles it, but you don't do the rearranging of stitches, and I think it just gives it a much nicer finish because you get the rolled edge without having the one stitch that's leaning in the wrong direction. The 2x2 collar is picked up and worked, and then I do have it double folded and sewn down. The sleeves are just picked up and worked, and then there are decreases going down, and they kind of follow a stockinette panel in the underarm, so it's a little bit cleaner. And when this pattern is written up, I haven't graded it for all the sizes yet, so not all the charts are complete, but it will have fully charted sleeves so that you have really clear instructions on how to do the decreases. I know a couple of garments that I've worked, the first one that comes to mind is the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit, where you're kind of just like decrease and figure out how to keep the pattern, how to maintain the pattern. So I didn't want that to happen. And the same thing for the cuff here, going from the cables into the 2x2 rib, and again with the sewn bind off. Yes, I will say, so this one, it did not have, well, it had the amount of ease that was intended when I wrote it up, but it's not exactly the amount of ease that I want for my own finished garment. So I have actually acquired more yarn to make a second sample for myself that has a little bit more ease. I have given birth to a lot of children and been pregnant a lot in the past 4 years. So my body is a little bit interesting at the moment, where my stomach circumference is actually larger or the same. It's within like an inch of my bust circumference. And that is just kind of an odd shape that I've never been before. So I'm kind of learning how to dress myself in a way that I like. And this did not quite have enough ease for what I would like to wear. So I do have yarn for another sample. I got a charcoal-ish colorway of Wool of the Andes worsted, which I think is a very comparable yarn to Cascade 220. They're pretty interchangeable, which is really nice. So I will be knitting up another sample, and this will be another fall release. That's kind of the timeline there. But yes, I think the cables are pretty easy to work, and it's pretty straightforward. And they are lined up where we do have 2 different cables, but you're still doing things like on the same rows. It's not difficult. You're not having like 2 different rates of cables going, if that makes sense. Like obviously you're cabling less on this one, but it lines up nicely with the cabling of the traveling cable. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Basically, I made it as easy as I could with the 2 different kinds of cables, in my opinion. Okay, I guess next whip that is currently on hold is, my game plan is to pretty much have big and little versions of all the patterns that I'm working on now. So here is the whip for the little version of that cabled sweater. This one is Cascade 220, just in a gray colorway. And have this one on hold because, again, not quite a priority at the moment, but I kind of just wanted to see how it would work. And I was enjoying the cable pattern until I got excited about other things. So on hold, still excited about it, still plan to finish this one, but just not imminently, if you will. Yes, it's a little version of that same cabled garment. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Progress that I made on other whips that you've seen is worked a little bit more on my Carol sock, but obviously still not quite done. I do have the first one finished, so yes, nothing too exciting about that, but I figured I'd mention it. Another pattern that I was working on last time that I now maybe, okay, be right back. Okay, we're back and I got warm, so just wearing a sweatshirt now. Okay, other things I won't show, but just mention. Hibernating right now is my Traveler from Andrea Mowry. It's the ridged purl, knit and purl textured. It'll either be a pullover crew neck or the hoodie, depending on how my yarn goes. She designed it to be fairly cropped, and so I think I should have enough to do it a little bit longer with the hood, but we'll kind of find out when we get there. I would rather have it be plenty long. Yes, we have a little guest star now. I would rather have it be plenty long and then do the crew neck and just do the hoodie another time, rather than have it be too cropped and then in order to make it into the hoodie. So that is on hold for the time being, just because I'm more excited about other things. Then the next thing I think I cast on was this just basic pullover, which is my packs series that I mentioned and talked about, I think mostly in my What I Knit in 2024, where it's just the basic drop shoulder, where I'm looking to have the basically full range of yarn weights. And one that was missing was the worsted weight version, which this is funny because it's very similar to the sweatshirt I'm wearing, but I cast this one on and I'm done with everything except for the sleeves. And something fun that I'm doing with this one, well, I guess details about it, is just a basic drop shoulder. It hasn't been blocked or anything. 2x2, this will be more of a mock neck collar, and then I did do 2x2 ribbing on the hem as well. But what I've been doing with this is tracking how long it takes me to knit this garment. So I have been setting a timer and paying attention to the time that it takes me to do like each section to finish a ball of yarn, and just want to see how long it takes overall for me to knit a sweater, because I feel like a lot of people ask, they're like, how long does it take you to make? And I'm like, it's kind of hard, because like, okay, I can knit a sweater in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on what it is, but I got a cute baby here, but it really depends on a lot of factors. And it's like, I also work on many projects all at the same time, so I don't necessarily know how long it takes me to do any individual garment or whatever it is. So this is my way of finding out. So it's been very interesting to see. I haven't worked on this for a few weeks just because of all the other projects I'm about to show you, but I'm looking forward to having the data from it and just have an understanding of how long it does take to kind of just set expectations for myself. So that's this one. Oh, I'm knitting it in Cascade 220, and I think it's Pumpkin Spice Heather is the colorway. Oh, when I was working on this, I found something amazing. I was on the hunt for a new ball winder because mine was putting out garbage cakes. They were just so wonky, and it would like yarn barf all the time. I'm a center puller, if anyone's curious. And it would always be yarn barf or get tangles, and I'm like, what is the point of this? It was still preferable to hand winding in my opinion, but the cakes were just like wonky in the striction or would come out in clumps, and then it would get stuck like in one spot and just keep winding all the yarn in one spot instead of like spinning and going around. So I was going to purchase a new one, but then I was like, you know what? I'm an engineer. I joke because I'm not practicing any of that at the moment, but I like to still scratch that itch every once in a while of problem solving. And I was like, I can figure this out. I can make this work again. Let's see what we can do. What's not working? Oh, it's not spinning like it should. And so I literally just oiled up one specific spot, and what do you know? Now I can make perfect cakes. Exhibit A. Okay, that one kind of came unwound just right there. But look how wonderful that is. It's so nice, and it's such a game changer, and now I don't dread winding up my yarn all the time. I used to just like only do one ball at a time until it was gone, and then I'd be like, ugh, I have to wind more on my wonky ball winder. But I no longer have a wonky ball winder. I have a functional ball winder that puts out cakes that look better than this when they haven't been tossed around, but very nice, very nice. Okay. Alrighty, so things that you definitely haven't seen. Goodness, I've had a bit of chaotic knitting. I don't know. I have a lot of things going on, and they're all exciting me, and I just wish I had more arms to knit more things all the time. So I'm trying to think of timeline, what came next. I'm not 100% sure. I did sign up for a couple of test knits. Yes, so let me go through those. I am knitting the Avenue Tee by Tori U, and I am using Purl Soho linen quill. So that's the first time that I've actually knit with this yarn. I acquired it earlier this year, I think, or maybe it was like their year-end sale, but it's pretty new to my stash. So I'm happy to have cast it on already. I am testing the crew neck version. So this design has both a crew neck and a V-neck, and I opted for the crew. It's just a little more practical, more what I go for. I'm not against V-necks, but I just generally wear more crew necks. So yes, I have finished all of the yoke, and then I'm just an inch or so, inch and a half maybe, into the body, so I just have a lot of stockinette to go. The sleeves are pretty short, so I'll pick those up and finish them, and then the neckline, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like a little bit of ribbing, and then it rolls, or maybe it just rolls on the collar. I can't remember exactly, but I made pretty good progress on this. The construction is the contiguous construction, so it's kind of a hybrid of a saddle shoulder and a raglan. So you start off just doing your increases along the shoulder, or on the shoulder for the front and back panels, and then once you hit a certain point, you do more increases for the sleeves, and that's that. So I've completed all of those, obviously, and so now, yes, just finishing all the stockinette body, the sleeves and the collar. This one is due in a couple weeks, so should be all set to finish that one up in no time. Then the other test knit I'm working on is a little bit out of reach, but I grabbed it. Okay, this is the Jacques scarf by Penrose, and this is where I'm at here. So this is kind of along the lines of the Sophie shawl, Sophie scarf, all those garter scarves that people are knitting, but a few different elements to it that I think are pretty cool. So number one is obviously more than one color. So it has the stripe sequence, and it is it also has the I-cord on one edge and then double knitting on the other, so you get this really nice clean band on the one side of the shawl. That's the straight side that doesn't have the increases, or of the scarf, excuse me. There are a few different versions of this one. So there's a large and a small size, and then there's also a single main color and a dual main color. So the first one that she knit, like she had her main color and her contrast, and then halfway through the main and the contrast switch. So instead of the brownish gray that I have being the main, that would be the contrast, and then the white would switch to the main, and so that would then be the edgings would be switched once you hit the center, and that's kind of fun, but I think a little less my personal style. So I am just doing the single color larger size, and I have completed the first half and started the decreases. I think I've only done one decrease at this point. So yes, for this one I'm using Cascade Heritage Silk, which I don't remember the composition exactly. I want to say it's an 85-15 superwash merino silk, and I'm using two different colorways. This one's more of like a mushroom gray, and then just a white color for the contrast. So yes, to complete this, I'll just have to do the decreases to the other end, and since I'm doing the same color, it is just the brownish mushroomy color that will be the edgings for the whole shawl, scarf. A couple of things to note about this pattern, which weren't entirely apparent at the beginning. There is a little bit of intarsia. So you work the stripes back and forth, but then for this double knitting on this side, when you're working the white stripes, you actually do intarsia and you have a second ball, you wind off some of your main color, and you'll have a second small bit that you'll work from for this side, which was something that I didn't know how it was done, but it was not clear. I didn't really think about it. I'm not really sure. Basically, I didn't know till I started. I'm like, oh man, it's a little bit more, you have to work with a little bit more, just because you have two balls that you're working from for the main color, and then the single ball for the contrast, and then you do have to do a little bit more yarn management, of course, and like intarsia-y bits on the back side. I don't think I've been entirely consistent with how I'm twisting the yarn. There is a video that Laura put in, but the video is clear, but when I'm just like working without watching, I don't think I've done it exactly the same every time for how I'm doing my intarsia. I don't know if that makes sense or not, or how I'm carrying my yarn up kind of is another element of it, because you also have your I-cord on this side, where when you're doing just the main color rows, then you're hiding your contrast in the I-cord, and I kind of missed a couple spots like this one where it's carried outside of the I-cord, which not the end of the world, and of course it's on the wrong side, so it doesn't really matter, but since it's a scarf, you'll probably still see it, but is anyone gonna notice? No. So yes, a lot of people knocked these out in like a few days, really. But of course I'm working on a lot of things all at the same time, so I'll still get it done on time, no problem. But I was not a first finisher by any way, shape, or form. Yes, I think that's about it for this guy. So that's been fun. I had intended, it's a DK weight pattern, so I'm holding my fingering weight double. Part of the reason I did that is because I'm participating in Maker Madness for Woolberry Fiber Co. I don't know if anyone else has been doing that, but that's been a lot of fun. I'll talk about it more in a second, but basically one of the challenges was to see how much, like, rack up as much yardage as you could within the week of the challenge. And so instead of doing just DK weight, I chose to hold fingering weight double, so I would double my yardage while I was working on this. And that was a lot, I promise. So it did make it a little bit more challenging though, because since I'm holding it double, I have 2 strands coming from my 3 balls. So there's just like a lot of yarn going on, but worth it for the competitiveness of Maker Madness. Okay. Oh, hello. So yes, a couple other projects, and then I'll talk about Maker Madness and one of the very exciting things that has come out of Maker Madness. So I was interested in working on some summer knits, and I had an idea for a design, and that is a ribbed cardigan with the ties. I'm not a huge, like, follow the trends gal, never really have been, but the tie cardigan thing has been very cute to me, and so I'm jumping on that train. So I had started a first sample in yarn that I discussed last time. Sorry, start over. Valley Yarns, Southampton, I believe, was an acquisition from my last episode. And so I cast on with that. And this is as far as I got for that one. This one is mostly blocked. This is not. So that's as much as I have. So it is 4x4 rib, drop shoulder. So there are the increases on the back panel to form the shoulder shaping, and then it goes just the 4x4 rib all throughout. The sleeves are picked up, and there are short rows on the sleeve. And then I hadn't quite decided what I was gonna do for the bind off yet, so this one is just, it was intended to be a rolled edge, but this one doesn't really roll. But this is also not the final sample. So my intention was to knit this one and then knit a second one to have a short sleeve version and a long sleeve version. However, the yarn that I got, I couldn't accomplish the same gauge with the fabric that I wanted for the next version. So this one is kind of scrapped, I guess, and I am running with a different sample that is knit using a new to me yarn, which is Sandnes Garn Line. I think that's how you say it. So this is a 53% cotton, 33% viscose, 14% linen yarn, and it has been really great to work with. I've heard a ton of great things. I know a lot of people use this for all their summer garments, but I just never tried it myself until now, and the knitting process with it is really great. I will say it definitely is a summer yarn where it doesn't have as much like flexibility and bounce as a wool yarn does, so it's not as pleasurable to knit with as wool, but it's still very nice within the summer yarn category, if that makes sense. So this sample is a little bit further along than the last one, but it is a different gauge, and so different needle size. That one I think I used a 7, and this one is still labeled as a worsted weight yarn, but I'm doing the ribbing on a size 5, and I think it's working out really well. This one is not blocked, so the ribbing is still scrunched up quite a bit, but this is what we have going. Yes, so this one will be, let me hold it up a little bit better. This one will be the long sleeve version. And yes, so I'm done with the body, and I ended up just doing a bind off in pattern, and I think it looks really nice, and I'm excited to see what it looks like after blocking as well. So still the same drop shoulder design. The increases are worked to shape the back panel, and then the parts that I didn't get to on that one is the sleeves. I haven't even been drinking my coffee. Lukewarm. Okay. Let's keep rolling. So, Sandnes Garn Line, second sample, improved sample from that first one. So, the parts that I have done that I didn't on the other is, this one is, I had planned it for the long sleeve version, so that's what I'm doing for it. So I have made the sleeves longer, and I also did the double knit band, and then it will have 2 ties, which I do actually have one of the ties complete, but I don't know where I put it right at the moment. So there will be 2 different ties, also double knit, to go on the garment. Yes, I did hit a little bit. So 2 things. One, I was working on this when we hit the week of Maker Madness, where I was trying to get a ton of yardage, so I kind of shifted my focus to other projects, which I'll talk about, of course. And then I also kind of hit a roadblock because I thought I was doing nice decreases, but I don't like them, so I need to frog the sleeve. So like I mentioned, it is 4x4 ribbing. So I thought it would be nice to have like 4 stockinette stitches, the right side of stockinette, and have all the decrease go into them. But then you kind of get this whole chunk where it's like 10, 12 stitches of just stockinette, which I don't think it works. So I think it looks nice up to this point where decreasing just in the purls into the rib, but then this part just looks odd because it doesn't, the intention is to like kind of keep the flow, and that just is not what happens here. So I am gonna have to rip back and redo the decreases in a different way. I haven't decided exactly what that is, so that's the minor roadblock that I have encountered. So, but I am really excited about this. It's super nice, drapey. I'm really looking forward to blocking it, so the ribbing will lay nice and flat and just clean up the stitches a little bit, I'm hoping. And so this is the long sleeve version, and then for the short sleeve version, I'm using also a new to me yarn, which is the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. Jumping on this train as well, I'm using the powder colorway, 70% organic cotton, 30% extra fine merino, and this is another summer yarn I've heard wonderful things about, but never used myself. I actually have never used Knitting for Olive yarns at all, so I'm also curious to try their other ones. I feel like the other yarns are everyone's like tried and true go-to staple yarns, so I'm excited to test more of those out in the future, but this is a good starting point. And I cast this one on because I was trying to decide initially whether I was going to do the like worsted weight version as well as a fingering weight version, but I instead decided that I'm just gonna do the 1 gauge and then have it be short sleeves and long sleeves. So this other sample will be the short sleeve version, and I have completed the shaping in the back. I'm joining the round and started working on the body, but I cast this one on because it was during the week of the Maker Challenge where I was trying to rack up as much yardage as possible. So this one is the Knitting for Olive. It's a light fingering and I'm holding it double. So, excuse me. accomplishing the same gauge, or I was able to get gauge with both of these interchangeably, which is great. And I'm also really enjoying this yarn. One thing I am looking to do with my wardrobe is, like, I baby wear a lot, and so there are some like wools that I'm fine with, but I don't really want to put my baby on scratchier wools. And so finding options like this cotton merino and other similar yarns where it's super smooth and soft, where I'd feel comfortable having my baby lay on it, but still not necessarily all the superwash yarns, which I'm not super excited about, or I don't love all that much for my own personal garments. So trying to find those happy in-between yarns that aren't like super rustic, but also not all superwash or fibers like that. Now, of course, I'm not against those kinds because I think it's great for children's garments and other options. And I do have superwash garments myself. Oh, I don't know where that came from. It's because I haven't been drinking my coffee. So yes, looking forward to trying this. And I think I would love to just like have some more basic garments in this as well, just pullovers and things like that. Excuse me. So that might be on the list to do in the future as well. Okay, so now into the Woolberry Maker Madness excitement. So I've talked about it a bit, just with choosing to hold fingering weight double to rack up my yardage. It's like a game that Woolberry Fiber Co. is hosting during the similar period of March Madness, the NCAA basketball championship tournament. And so she, even though she's not really a sports fan, is my impression, is doing Maker Madness just as like a community building thing. So you could either put your own team of 5 people together, or she had a Google form to sign up and say, hey, add me to a team. So that's what I did. And my team and I, the Knitpickers, are doing really well so far. It's been a lot of fun. So the first challenge, which was last week, was the yardage challenge. And so I was working on that one, but it was also ribbing, and then the garter one like had the intarsia and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to crank out some serious yardage here. I just need a stockinette project that's in the round with yarn held double so I can crank out as much as I can. And that led me to casting on this basic, this basic raglan in fingering weight yarn. And this is actually yarn that I dyed. So I just kind of did a couple calculations and used an 8mm, a 5mm US 8 needle with fingering weight held double. And this is non-superwash merino, and my understanding, or I believe it is the same non-superwash merino that Explore Knits and Fibers uses. I think that I ordered it from the same place that they source their yarn. And so I had 4 skeins of just the more tonal semi-solid maroon, as well as 1 skein of, this is when I was learning and playing around with yarn, just 1 skein of more of a variegated, but it had all the same dye that went into this, but I did it differently while I was playing around. So one is a variegated, one is a semi-solid. Learning, having fun. And I only have 1 skein of the variegated one. So I decided to do all the yoke in this tonal and then adding some stripes with the variegated, and I just finished one of the variegated stripes, so I'm ready to join the tonal back. And there will just be like 3 stripes on the body and the sleeves, and then back to the tonal to finish it off. And it was a lot of fun, and I cranked out all of this in like 24 hours. It was crazy, and it was so fun to work on, and a really great palette cleanser. And I hadn't been working stockinette in the round for a while because I had been doing the test knit, well, I guess the Avenue T I had done like a couple inches, but that was not going to crank up the yardage or rack up yardage as fast as the yarn held double. And so I've been doing like a lot of ribbing and different things rather than, oh, and the half fisherman's rib for my green sweater that I had been wearing earlier, and then the cables. So basically I just needed that straight stockinette, and this was great, and I'm having a lot of fun working on this. And it's also fun to work with yarn that I dyed myself, and that's just kind of cool. So I don't know exactly, I need to prioritize some other projects, but I want to work on this a lot more, so I foresee myself finishing this and maybe getting a wear out of it before summer officially hits. Well, I guess it's spring officially, before temperatures are too warm for me to wear the 100% wool. Yes, so that was a lot of fun. Okay, now the major crazy exciting thing that also has to do with Maker Madness, and that is the second week's challenge, which we are currently, today that I'm filming, this challenge is due tonight, and I did finish my project for it. And the challenge was to do, so we have a 5-person team, and each person had to complete, pardon me, a project in one of the 5 categories. Each one had to do like a different category and complete a project within it. Categories were knitting, crocheting, embroidery or needlepoint, spinning, and weaving. So all of us in the group knit. I think all of us, or all but one, crocheted. 3 or 4 out of the 5 of us could do needlepoint, but nobody really spun or wove. Now, I did try, this was at least like 5 years ago, I tried spinning, but I didn't make it very far. I didn't really like it. I was like, what am I doing wasting all my free time making yarn when I can just buy it and knit with it without having to spin it myself first? That was kind of my attitude. So technically this isn't the first time I've ever spun, but this is the first time I've ever completed a spinning project. So yes, sorry, spoiler, I'm the one that did spinning in the end. So this is technically the first yarn that I've ever spun. This was still hanging out on my drop spindle like 5 years later, and it was just a single that I was like, eh. So I never did anything with this. But I did finish a whole spinning project myself, and I had so much fun. Like, I just kept telling my husband, I was like, I'm having so much fun. This is so fun. I love spinning. And I was shocked because of how much I didn't like it before. And then of course I'm analyzing, trying to figure out, why do I like it so much more now? And I think a lot of it is I've learned so much more about yarn and fiber from watching a lot of podcasts, from really digging deeper into knitting. Like, technically I've been knitting since I was in elementary school, but like I started taking it more seriously in college, and since then I've been like capital K knitter addict, don't go a day without knitting in my life. And so I've also just consumed a ton of knitting content and learned so much about fiber and different yarns and construction of the yarns, how they behave, just everything about it. And also watching a lot of other people who put content out on YouTube or on Instagram, seeing them dig into spinning, or people sharing more about their spinning. So I feel like I've just learned a lot without really knowing that I've learned that much. And so I like appreciate this so much more. And I think the other time too, like, spinning didn't really click. It felt really clunky with, I'm just using a drop spindle, and it felt really clunky, and I never really got into a rhythm, and I was like, this is silly, I'm wasting my time when I could be knitting. But then now I'm like, I just want to spin, and now I want to knit with what I spin. And the other thing is, I also, like, an actual spinning wheel is pretty expensive, of course, quite the investment. And so I was like, I'm predominantly a garment knitter. And so I want, if I'm spinning yarn, I want to be able to use it in my garments and to knit with it. And I also generally just use solid color yarns. So all of that kind of didn't get me excited about the prospect of spinning until I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I had a braid that I had purchased from Coast to Coast Yarn Co. back in like 2020, something like that, maybe 2019. Like, it was, my husband and I weren't married. I don't even think we were engaged when we started this. Anyway, here's my drop spindle, nothing fancy. I got it off Etsy. It came with some fiber that I don't think I think I may have like spun a tiny bit of it before I spun prettier fiber. And then I have this Coast to Coast braid that I got. So all this lead up to, I made yarn. And I think it's not too shabby. It is totally not in my color palette, nothing like that. But I still had so much fun, and I'm going to find a project that I will use this in. I have approximated how much yarn I have, and this was actually before washing and thwacking it is when I calculated the yardage. And the way that I did it was I put my Swift up and I used my like measuring tape around my Swift and measured it to like 5 feet circumference, and then wound my yarn up on it. So my skein on twisted is the circumference of 5 feet, and then I just counted how many loops I had, multiplied by 5. That's the number of feet, divided by 3 for the yardage. So I believe I have approximately 140, 150 yards, which would be enough for me to use as one of the colors in the Pressed Flowers kerchief, which is the pattern from Amy Christopher's from her Pressed Flowers series, but it's actually a free pattern that she did with Hobie, and I would have enough to use this as one of those colors. So I don't feel like super compelled to knit with it, because honestly, if I knit it up into that, I don't know what I would do with it other than let my daughter play with that or wear it, because it's that I wouldn't really wear a kerchief with this colored. I'm not really an accessories person outside of like practical hats and scarves and things like that, so I don't like dress up an outfit with any kind of accessories like that. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with it. I don't feel pressed to knit it up right now, but I made this and I can't believe it, and I am very proud. Of course it's imperfect, but that, I guess my goal was not to make like a perfect yarn that I could knit something very specific with. It was just to complete the challenge of knitting up my 4 ounces of fiber, or spinning up my 4 ounces of fiber. But it was so fun. I also think that I did it the wrong way, where like I did the Z twist before the S twist, or the S before the Z for my plies, or for my singles before I applied it. But I did it backwards, I think, but I don't think it really matters. One is better for crochet and one for knitting. Now I'm getting them messed up, which one's which. Regardless, I made yarn and I'm proud of it, and I also am making plans to get my hands on this actual wheel. I'm thinking about basically I want to get a wheel now, but I also think it's not, this took me less than a week. I did this in like 4 days, I think, from start to finish, from like fiber braid to finished yarn. After washing and letting it dry and everything, took me 3 or 4 days. So a garment spin on a drop spindle is not completely unreasonable. And that also has me excited, because I basically thought that I would have to get a wheel and make that investment before I would be able to have spinning be like a part of my knitting. So that's not the case. I'm so excited. If you're intrigued and have any kind of the reservations that I've talked about, just go for it. It's a lot of fun. Yes. So I'm very proud. I made this. I can't even believe it. I understand the hype, and this will not be the end of my spinning journey. Okay. That was a lot. I feel like I didn't really dive too deep on any one thing because I had so much, but hopefully we kind of did a catch up, and as long as I get this out March 31st, I will accomplish my goal of releasing a video each month so far. We're only 3 months in, I'm already down to the wire, but that's okay. Life is busy, but it's fun. I'm knitting a lot and having a great time with it. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you've tried spinning or you're held up for some reason. If you have any advice on what wheel, based on everything that I've researched in the past 3 days, I kind of want to go for the Ashford Kiwi. I feel like either the Shacked Ladybug or the Ashford Kiwi are the 2 beginner wheels that I see the most. So I really was looking at comparisons between the 2. I know everyone says that it would be helpful to use a wheel first before you purchase it. And there actually is a Fiber Fest here in central Iowa at the end of April that I would like to go to. And so I'm curious if there will, it wasn't super clear on the website whether they would have places where you could try out different wheels, but I can only imagine they would. Or if they're just people there sitting and spinning, can I be like, hey? No, that's probably not. But I would love to try it. And so if I'm able to test out wheels at that point, maybe I'll have more direction in which one I want to choose. But if you have any advice or anything like that, let me know, because I have been bit by the spinning bug and I just want to dive head first. But okay. All right. That is all I'm going to chat about today. Be on the lookout for another video from me, hopefully in about 2 weeks. I want to get a little bit more consistent and get on more of an actual schedule, so I'm not just kind of like whenever I can and then I end up waiting till the end of the month to do it. So yes. Okay, enough talking to you. I'm gonna go knit. No, I'm gonna go take care of my children, but maybe knit at the same time. We'll see. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you very soon in just a couple weeks for much more knitting, maybe more spinning, but definitely knitting. All right. Thanks so much. Again, we got to end this before I sign off any more awkwardly. Bye.